Okay, nice. Last question of the exit interview. What's your excuse for not winning the cup?
Injuries, man. Too many injuries.
Yeah, sure it was. Next.
Oh, please. We just went cold at the wrong time.
Yeah, couldn't possibly be a structural issue, could it? Next.
Injuries.
Mm-hmm. Next.
Injuries.
Of course it was. Next.
Injuries.
Yep. Next.
Karma.
Obviously. Next.
Hold on, I had 2 for the Leafs.
Next.
Because we're the Leafs.
Oh, good. You're catching on. Next.
Is it weird to say Steve Dangle?
Oh, good. You're catching on. Next.
Man, we just weren't good enough. Not this year.
Wow. That's actually really refreshing to hear.
Actually, it was probably all the injuries.
Son of a bitch! Low quality fans of a high quality Bruins team, or any team, because maybe you clicked on this because you just want to see where I ranked your team. Welcome, and to some of you, welcome back. We're going to talk about what went wrong for the 30 teams that aren't in the finals. We're going to start by talking about how Bruce Cassidy is now the coach of the Vegas Golden Knights. No, I will not root for them. That's just not going to happen. Yes, I wish the best for him. I hate this so much. Put some money down, maybe a tenner on Jack Eichel for the Selke next year. Yeah, that's all I really want to say about that, because I kind of want to unalive really hard when I saw that. Got multiple phone calls and texts and messages of people dunking on me, which was pleasant. I should edit this to the front. We are 15 subscribers from 1,000. So I'm going to ask a favor. If you like the videos, try giving it a share to someone. If you don't do that. Why are you here? What are you doing? That's pretty much it. Let's get into the meat of what we are doing here. So what we're talking about, why teams either didn't make the playoffs. It gets easier once we actually talk about playoff teams because we just got to focus on what ended their season. We're going to order them from 32 down to number 1. I guess 30 down to 1 because there's 2 teams still in it. And we're going to go by date eliminated from playoff contention. A, because I think it's kind of fun to do it that way. And B, I think there's something to be said about teams that look at the standings and fight to stay in the race longer. This isn't the most fair way to rank them, but it's fun. It's fun. I'm also going to tell you what my way too early power rankings before the season started, where these teams lined up in that, so you can kind of get to laugh at me a little bit. Again, just because the Montreal Canadiens were 32nd in the league does not mean they were eliminated first, but they were! Oh, fucking love that shit. Oh, it feels good. This right here just got warmer. It got warm and fuzzy. They were eliminated on March 25th. Oof. I ranked them as the 24th place team in my way too early power rankings. So what went wrong for the Habs? Well, I'll tell you what went wrong. Injuries. Sort of. They had massive injuries. Carey Price obviously didn't play. Weber didn't play. They had a ton of stuff go wrong for players. 700, more than 700 man games lost according to a Twitter thread I read once. So there's your boots on the ground reporting for that. But what really went wrong, because we're going to talk about injuries through all these teams, basically. Every team can go, well, we had a pretty good injury list. What really went wrong was the team wasn't good. And we knew that they weren't good. We knew they wouldn't compete for a playoff spot. And here we are. I didn't think they'd be worst in the league, but them not overpaying for Deneau, which I praised at the time, was a great move. Because this season, bottoming out is actually going to pay dividends in the future. And the number 1 overall pick, although maybe not the best draft for it, doesn't hurt. We're going to go kind of in order here, because at number 31 on March 28th, the Arizona Coyotes were eliminated. I had them ranked as the 31st team in my early power rankings. What went wrong? Nothing. This was by design, and it kind of helps. Now, I never like to see injuries. They had a lot of injuries, but they also were super okay taking their time with injuries, so you have to weigh that against it. never set to compete. They never were trying to. Nothing went wrong here. They wanted a top pick. They landed the number 3 pick in a draft where no one really knows. We feel like there's a top 2, but there's a lot of discourse about who's actually great in this first round. The number 3 pick could very well be the best player picked. They could also be the worst. So let me know how much you trust Arizona's drafting. You know, that feels good. Your next team, the Philadelphia Flyers, March 28th, same day as Arizona, which is hilarious. I had them 21st in my rankings. So far, I feel pretty good about my rankings because these are all bottom third of the league predictions, and they all kind of ended it up there, so I'm okay with this. They had another boatload of injuries. The Ellis only playing 4 games was massive. Couturier playing 0 games after December 18th. Huge, but let's dig a little deeper. My big question for the Philadelphia Flyers was, will Carter Hart become that guy for you? Will he have a bounce-back season? He wasn't great, but he was good, and he kept them in a lot of games. So I would say, yeah, he did bounce back, and he still looks like their guy. He still needs to get a lot better if he's going to fulfill what they thought he would be, but he's still their guy. What I didn't expect is for their offense to completely fall off. None of their lines could generate consistent offense, and trust me, they tried them all. They scrambled their lines all season. Their power play was worst in the league. They had one player eclipse 20 goals, which was Cam Atkinson with 23. But when you allow over 33 shots a game, which is, really bad, and you're only scoring 2.57 goals a game, which is second worst in the league, well, it's a recipe for disaster. Their goaltending wasn't good enough to keep them in it for that. A .909 save percentage, though, when you're getting shellacked and your offense isn't doing anything, I'm going to give a tip of the cap to that. I don't think Carter Hart's part of the problem. Martin Jones, surprisingly, not part of the problem. I didn't like their offseason, so this isn't really all that surprising to me. I thought they'd be a little better than this. Injuries played a role, but they couldn't get anything going offensively. Speaking of offensively, Seattle. Oh, man, I had an embarrassing hot take about Seattle. So on March 30th, they were eliminated. I had them ranked 18th in the league in my way too early power rankings. What went wrong? Well, to start the season, I said that maybe Seattle's the third best team in the West behind Colorado and Vegas. I said that. I knew they'd struggle to score goals, but Grubauer I loved in net, and their defensive structure looked great. Oh boy. Only works if your goaltending actually looks great in net, because Grubauer was next level bad, allowing 3.51 goals a game, a sub 900 save percentage, and allowing 33 more goals than expected according to Money Puck throughout the season. Mix in a bottom 5 offense, and boom, you suck. You're terrible. I can't believe that has to be my biggest whiff of the season. Now, I was very, very maybe on that take. I knew it was a hot take, but I really believed that they would be in playoff contention somewhere during the season, and whether they sold off at the trade deadline or not would have affected that. But come trade deadline, there was no question. That team was terrible offensively, and the defense couldn't make up for the awful goaltending. Horrendous. At number 28, we have the New Jersey Devils. March 31st is when they were eliminated. 19th is where I had them in the way too early power rankings. What went wrong? For a lot of these teams, I really didn't look up a lot of what went wrong. I did little stuff, but for the most part, I knew what went wrong with most teams. The Devils, I had no clue actually what had happened. Because A, I didn't pay attention to them at all. And B, I didn't really pay attention to them. They won the offseason. We were supposed to be really excited, right? Another year of winning free agency and another year in the bottom 5. 6 different starting goalies will get you there, though. Through the season, I think they were only matched by Buffalo in that regard, I believe. I don't have that in front of me, but I think that those are the 2 that had the most. They were all very bad, all 6 of them, which, will do that. Injuries had that happen, but also the poor performance in the net. You just tried the next man up, hoping to hit something. Never happened. The offense probably could have been better. I expected a little bit more. But when you're always worried about the Swiss cheese behind you, it's really hard to put up goals. So hopefully this free agency, they win again, but with goaltending, because they could really fucking use it. This is one of my most shocking rankings, because I had to literally go back and check myself on this. At number 27, we have Chicago, who was eliminated on April 5th. Again, these are such early eliminations. They were 16 in my power rankings. I had them all the way up at 16. Like, I just don't. You know what? I'm gonna go back again. Just make sure I'm not wrong here. Hold on. Way too early power rankings. Number 16 is Chicago. Here's what I said. This feels too high, but bringing in Fleury can't be undervalued. Not to mention getting Taves back and healthy. Some of their younger guys should continue to get better. Middle of the league feels right. Wow. So that didn't happen. They stayed more competitive than I expected, even though they really did finish in the bottom 5. So that's good, but Fleury was absolutely demolished on this team. He never had a chance. And they can point to the advanced analytics all they want, but the high danger chances were absurd. The guy was exhausted. He was playing constantly. It was awful. Could not keep the puck out of the net. The defense in front of him sucked. They say Seth Jones had a bounce back year. Not for that contract. He didn't. Just brutal. Terrible start to the season under Jeremy Colleton. 1-9-2 in their first 12. But it was just the high danger chances. And they would have periods of play, like full 20-minute periods, where they just fell off a cliff. They play a good 40 minutes somewhere, whether it's the second and third, first and third, first and second, good 40 minutes somewhere. For 20 minutes every game, they would just fall off a fucking cliff. Usually in the second period. Just a really bizarre team that if they gave Fleury just a little bit of support, they probably would have been up near that middle of the pack. But a lack of defense and the aging offensive stars can't really get the job done. They did not do a lot this season. Again, I think that's affected by bad defense. Yeah, just doomed this team. They never really had a shot, especially if you go 1-9-2 to start the season. That's just brutal. But some teams have hot starts, like Buffalo. At number 26, April 6th, they're eliminated. 32nd is where I had them, and they outperformed that. They outperformed that by a lot. It isn't fun being a Buffalo fan, I'm sure. What went wrong here is actually nothing. The team's rebuilding, and they know it's rebuilding. They traded Eichel. But here's the thing. They still get a high pick. Tage Thompson, you're hoping isn't a fluke because I shit all over him before the year started, and he looked great. Krebs is awesome. Power should be awesome. And Tuck is, man, what a great addition to that team, just from a feel-good vibes kind of place, where he wants to be there and wants them to succeed, fights his fucking dick off every game, just pushes, energetic, wants it. They're fun to watch. They're fun to watch also because they also started 6 goalies through the season, and they were also terrible for the most part. But this wasn't their year, and we knew it. And them finishing as high as they did, which wasn't very high, still kind of impressive, oddly enough. At number 25, we have Detroit. April 9th. 25th is where I had them. Ooh, 25. Nice. 25th is where I had them in my way too early power rankings. Again, this is boring, but really nothing went wrong, right? Another high pick. Young core looks good. Nedeljkovic might have been a whiff, but you didn't give up that much for him. But this doesn't feel right, you know? It feels like this team should be closer to playoff contention. They should have been in it longer than April 9th. This team has to take a big step forward next year, or else people are going to start going, all right, guys, it's been 6 years. Can we get back to doing good things? I think it's been 6 years. The team's been terrible for a long time. And Sider's really, really, really exciting. And Raymond's exciting. And what they bring offensively just couldn't offset how often the puck was in their own net. And yes, I'm aware that Sider is a defenseman, but he brings a lot offensively. More help is coming. They do need more help offensively. I'm not saying those two guys carried a load into a top offense. They're just going to get better. Like, this team is improving. But, man, is it worth it if you have to have 8 or 9 years of just being terrible? I mean, if it's followed by 10 years of being great, I guess. But, God, that's a long rebuild. This one feels long. At number 24, we have Anaheim, the most boring team in the league to start this season. There's a couple guys who fixed that. Zegras was a big part of that. April 10th is when they're eliminated. 30th is where I had them in way too early power rankings. What went wrong? I'll read it for you. After finally looking like they were coming out of their rebuild for the first half of the season, Gibson torpedoes them. That doesn't sound right. But his first 30 games, he had a .922 save percentage and a 2.5 goals allowed average. Finished the season with a .904 and a 3.2. Takes some real bad games to get there. This team's not ready. They're not. But they had a roadmap for being really competitive. And again, blessing in disguise that they fell off. They knew they had to trade at the deadline. They got some pieces. They're happy with that. But boy, that was a free fall after that first 30 games. It was a free fall, and it was bad. It was bad. San Jose, 23. April 14th is when they were eliminated. 29th is where I had them in the rankings. Team's old. Can't score to save their fucking life. Have very little depth. And still has a ton of money on the books. What did you think was going to happen? The team's bad. I would have loved a little, like, sneaky, hey, we're kind of back into it. No, that's too much money in too few players. They didn't do enough in the offseason to get anyone excited, which they shouldn't have. They got to find a way to start removing some of these contracts. They need to bottom out bad. They really do. What went wrong is what we all thought would. They just can't hack it anymore. They have some players that have their highs and lows in certain months, and they're still elite in for certain weeks. But they just can't keep it going through a whole season. And I don't see a road for things to get better. It has to get worse before it gets better in San Jose. At number 22, we have Columbus Blue Jackets. April 16th, they were eliminated. The 28th ranked team in my power rankings. What went wrong? Well, this might be your new middle-of-the-pack team forever. The guys who are stuck. Because the offense was middle of the pack. It was decent. Defense was awful. Special teams are bad, and then the goalies were worse. They'll fix one of those things in this offseason because they don't have a ton of money. The other thing will regress. They'll rinse and they'll repeat, and they'll just be stuck. They might need a good bottom-out year. They really might. But 2 first-round picks this season, or this draft season, definitely helps. You have something to kind of be like, all right, maybe if we land these 2 picks on real game changers, that can do a lot. But I don't think this team has enough talent, and I'm worried about the goaltending. Something that we thought they had a plethora of 2 years ago. Columbus is that team that this is going to be a very, very, very scary offseason. And you don't know what you're going to get. And I hope those fans trust their front office because this one's going to be tight. This one's going to be tight. At number 21, the New York Islanders. April 17th is when they're eliminated. I ranked them 6th in my power rankings. This is your next big miss. What went wrong? What went wrong? I'll tell you what went wrong. We suddenly believed. We finally gave them credit and said, you guys are good. You guys will be a good team. And what happens? They have a 13-game road trip to start the season. They almost stay at 500. They're a little off. Well, fake 500, that is. They have key injuries to too many guys, and they play a system. When you play a system like that, Boston fans will know this, and you have a key injury, it can all kind of fall apart, and it can fall apart quick. And that's what happened. Too many aged players on this team, not enough career best years from anybody across the board. Barzal, I think there's still a lot of questions about whether he can really hack it. I mean, he was good, don't get me wrong, but I still have questions about that guy. This team never really had a chance. Started slow, injuries got them, some COVID stuff happened. They did kind of make us wonder if they were going to pull off the comeback for a couple weeks there later in the season. But this was a season of hell. Just a season of absolute hell that cost a lot of guys on the wrong side of 30 one of their years. This is going to be another very, very strange offseason. I don't see a road back to contention right now. I think they need to make some major structural moves. At number 20, we have Winnipeg, who you sometimes forget as a team. April 20th, they were eliminated 13th in my power rankings. What went wrong? Remember when we said they addressed the defense from the offseason acquisitions? Schmidt and Dillon? Well, it wasn't enough. The defense was bad and only got worse when Maurice suddenly resigned. On top of that, a bottom-of-the-league penalty kill just exacerbated the problem. This team, they should be better next season. And Hellebuck is still incredible. But it's going to be a nervous offseason for these guys, too. Because you want them to really approach this as like, hey, we're good enough to make a run. They're top 6. I have questions, but everyone seems to really like them. They have very little depth past that, and their defense is weak. But they have an all-world goaltender, and if your top 6 is liked, you got to start getting them a couple other pieces defensively. And defense is expensive right now. Number 19, Vancouver. April 26th, they were eliminated. The 26th ranked team in my power rankings. What went wrong? Well, the team isn't very good. Or so I thought. Because a top 10 defensive season, a large amount of injuries, a few to key players, and a coaching change that reinvigorated the squad seems to have this team pointing in the right direction. Now, I don't trust that front office at all. And I said before the season started, I'd put this team down in the bottom third of the league for the next 5 years, write it in pen. And I'm really not getting away from that, although they were better than that this year. I don't think this front office is going to do what it needs to do to continue to be good and go in that direction. I just have a lot of faith for them to fuck it up, honestly. But if they figure out the offense a little bit, where they certainly didn't have enough of it, and stop relying on Demko as much as they have, this team is going to continue to be a lot more competitive than I would predict. And I kind of look forward to them trying to prove me wrong. I don't get to watch enough Vancouver games. I usually hate watch them. I don't like Vancouver. But they're an interesting team for sure to watch. They're entertaining to watch, either because they're getting shellacked and you always know that there's a player that could have a big play, or because they just look really good for small portions. So that's an interesting one to me. At number 18, I can't believe this shit, Vegas! April 27th is when they're eliminated. They were ranked 3rd in my way too early power rankings. What went wrong? Well, I'm going to use a bit of a metaphor here. This Vegas team reminds me of the 1979 NHL All-Stars. Not quite as good, but they remind me of it. Because in 1979, there was a challenge series between the NHL All-Stars with Hall of Famers as far as the eye can see, just completely based off of incredible talent, versus a Soviet team that just couldn't lose for the past 20 years, basically. Hadn't really lost a major thing since 1960. It was just raw talent versus a team that was built to crush you under absolute consistency. And the NHL All-Stars, they put up a fight. They win Game 1 and take a 2-goal lead in Game 2 before blowing it early in the 3rd. Then they got smoked 6-0 in Game 3. This isn't a perfect metaphor for Vegas, but this is a statement on Vegas as a team, because what happened to them this year is injuries. We all know that. Montreal can argue that they had the most injuries, the most effective injuries. Vegas had real hopes this season and got completely demolished by injuries and cap constraints. But the reason this metaphor works, to me, is because we're talking about a team that is completely built off talent right now. High-end talent. But where's the chemistry, I wonder? And we're going to see that next year. And Bruce Cassidy is your guy. And he can do it. And can he do it? But I have certain questions about how this team is going to work. Because even when you look at the best teams, Tampa and Colorado, ton of talent, don't get me wrong. But they've worked so well together. It took Tampa years to figure out how to make this mesh and work well, and now they're unstoppable. Colorado, years to really make this kind of run, and they just got better and better and better together. Vegas keeps bringing in new pieces, big major pieces. I don't know. There's something that's weird about this to me. And I think they're forgetting how important chemistry is and how important it can be. I don't know if this team is built or being built the right way. And I'll probably eat these words. This is going to be a very good team next year. But I'll be waiting to see them in the playoffs. And I'll probably be pretty surprised if they can put together a run. And I know a lot of people are going to talk about, well, the expansion team was a bunch of randos. But you had a full squad of guys that were pointed in the right direction from the get-go. Guys who had a chip on their shoulder because they felt tossed away by the other team. Guys that were waiting for this opportunity to be a top-line guy. Career bests across the board with a coach that said, we are just going to compete all the time. And it was a winning formula. But they threw that away to bring in talent. There should be some nerves, I think, with this team. Because I don't know, but I get a weird feeling about it. Spent way too long on Vegas. Number 17, Ottawa. April 30th is when they were eliminated. I had them at 22nd in my way too early power rankings. What went wrong? Nothing. I mean, the team really isn't that good, right? They're very young still. Lots of COVID stuff went on, but the offense was bad. Ending the season in 25th in the league. Defensively, not much better, being in the bottom half there. Goaltending was awful to start, though they found something with Forsberg, I think. The team isn't there yet, and they need to stop pretending they are. Though maybe that's just the ownership that's doing that. Playoff teams! Nashville! May 9th is when they were eliminated. 27th is where I had them ranked. I thought they were going to bottom out, man. I really did. Really expected them to. What went wrong? Well, the Saros injury didn't help, obviously. But I think this team just really needs to rebuild. And it's a good team. And again, they had a bunch of bounce back years by some guys. But I think it needs to rebuild. And I think the Avalanche were so hungry. They just smoked them. What went wrong is they faced the best team in the West and they got fucking railed. GG, outplayed. Like, that's what went wrong. There's your in-depth analysis right there. At number 15, we have the Minnesota Wild. May 12th is their elimination date. They were 17th in my power rankings. What went wrong? Special teams, man. Allowing at least one power play goal in every game of the series will sink most teams. Their own power play is struggling to the tune of 4 for 24. Other than that, it was simply a lack of depth. Having only 2 players score more than 1 goal. You can't win like that. You just can't. Bruins fans know that. Kaprizov was awesome, of course, but there's just not enough depth there, and they were playing against a team that was all depth. That's what St. Louis was, and they just couldn't compete. Number 14, Washington Capitals. May 13th was their elimination date. They were 14th in my power rankings. I'm going to read this off what I said in my way too early power rankings. This is as low as I could put them, 14th. This is a team of old stars who still have gas left in the tank but can't really make noise in the playoffs. By these rankings, I technically have them as the odd team out in the East, but that feels wrong to say. This feels like a team that could be 4 spots higher, and I wouldn't blink an eye. I was impressed they made it to the playoffs, honestly. Obviously, the Islanders falling off was a big part of that. This team wasn't good enough, and Ovi was snuffed out. And when you just have 1 goal from Ovi in a series in which you're facing a just elite offensive team, or so we thought, we'll get there, you're not going to win. The team wasn't good enough to compete with the Panthers. Their goaltending, Samsonov and Vanacek, bad. Middling at best. That'll remind a lot of Capitals fans of last year. There's too many holes for them, and they didn't have enough to take on a team that could just keep scoring. I will give them some credit there, though, because way too many leads blown, which was Florida's staple, so give them a break. But they took leads in some of these games and just couldn't hold them. So they had a chance, especially Game 5, when they allowed a late goal, and then 5 minutes into the overtime, they allowed the game winner. That was probably what broke the back, but you really thought Washington was putting on something here, and I was going to get real upset because I wanted to see Florida go far. Again, we'll get there. At number 13, the Los Angeles Kings. May 14th was their elimination date. They were 23rd in my power rankings. They blew that out of the water. What went wrong? Nothing. They are way ahead of their timeline. They weren't better than the Oilers, but they still pushed it to 7. Their special teams struggled. They had key injuries, and McDavid had 14 points in 7 games. I mean, they got beat by the better team. It probably shouldn't have gone 7. Tip the cap to the Kings, because nothing went wrong here. They just needed some more time. At number 12, Boston. May 14th is their elimination date. They were 7th in my power rankings. We've been over this. But what went wrong? No depth. Again. 36 penalties in 7 games. That'll do it too. Just brutal. Just brutal. Some of the officiating was questionable on the road, but the favor was returned at home for most of the games. So I'm not going to begrudge that at all. I mean, we did commit a lot of penalties. Add in a couple rough games from Omar to start the series and whatever. We got a big fat L. Whatever. Who cares? And number 11, Toronto. Another Game 7 loss. May 14th, same day as the Boston Bruins. I guess it doesn't sound right, but maybe these days are off by 1 or 2. They were 5th in my power rankings. What went wrong for the Toronto Maple Leafs? Is it fair to say nothing? I'm not looking to give them the excuse that they're already using. Tampa, we were the second best team in the league, but Tampa beat us in the first round. It's all about the seeding. That's fucked up. First of all, you still had to beat Tampa at some point. Like, what do you want right there? Look, I don't think anyone else was beating Tampa in the East with the benefit of hindsight. I really don't think any matchup was winning that. Do I think Toronto was the second best team in the league? No. Dude, no. Absolutely not. But they were good enough to go on a deep run. That was pretty clear. And they just couldn't beat a team hoping to three-peat. Look, this is a shoulder shrug if I've ever seen one, no matter how big that pill is to swallow for Toronto fans. It's really not wrong to say run it back with small tweaks, man. At number 10, the Pittsburgh Penguins. May 15th is their elimination. They were the 12th ranked team in my power rankings. What went wrong? I hate to do this. Crosby injury. Trouba's hit on Crosby. Like, I want to give credit to the Rangers, but after the injury, everything changed. Pens were up 2-0 in Game 5. Trouba hit. He leaves the game. Boom. All of a sudden, Rangers fight back. And let's give Rangers a lot of credit here. They were great in the next series. They were great against Tampa. I'm not trying to take anything away from them. But Crosby was crushing you guys. And for him to miss the second half of Game 5, Game 6, and then be hobbled in Game 7, I don't know. It just felt like it changed everything. You toss in that Yari was injured and they were down to their third-string goalie. I don't know. The Penguins really might have beat this Rangers team. I mean, ifs and buts, candies and nuts, but they might have, man. At number 9, I have Dallas. May 15th was their elimination, same as the Pens, and I had them 10th in my power rankings. What went wrong in that series against Calgary? Well, it certainly wasn't Ottinger. He's still third in goals saved above expected and only played in round 1. Incredible. But at the end of the day, he was the only one who really showed up. Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin couldn't get anything going. They only scored on 2 power plays in the entire series. The team only scored on 2 power plays in the entire series. Something that really could have shifted a 7-game series where they had 24 power plays. It's an 8% success rate. Not great. A lot of questions on their big dogs. Seguin and Ben combined for 6 points in 7 games, and that's not enough. That's never going to be enough. I don't know if they can lead that team to glory. That team's got a lot of question marks for me. They put up a fight, but Calgary, at the time, we were all considering the second best team in the West. And they didn't end up being that, but they were a really solid team that ran lines, and I thought Dallas put up a good fight. Or really Ottinger did. At number 8, the Florida fucking Panthers. Just, what the shit, guys? What went wrong? Oh, I don't know, a little thing called 3 goals in 4 games, you fucking donkeys. Vasilevsky went nuclear to pound the Floridian little brother into the dirt. Power play disappeared. No one could beat Vasi. I'm legitimately angry about this team's performance because I wanted to see this matchup really be a great matchup, and I wanted Velma, what is it? I wanted them to go on a run. I wanted it. Are you gonna come up to my lap so everyone can see you, or are you gonna walk away? Come on. Come on up. Come on. Jump up. Jump. Yep. Yes. There you go. She's seeable now. This is Velma. We all know who Velma is. Look at those rippling shoulders. They didn't come here to see you. Yes, they did. I know they did. But yeah, the Florida Panthers suck and whatever. They were eliminated on May 23rd. I had them 4th in my power rankings. Number 7, May 26th, Calgary was eliminated. 20th in my power rankings. What went wrong? Draisaitl and McDavid combined for 29 points in this series. 29 points in 6 games. Done. Honestly, these games are crazy, but the goaltending was awful on both sides, and Edmonton had the better duo. The better offensive duo. Just nutty. What a great series that was. I wish it went 7. At number 6, St. Louis eliminated May 27th. They were 15th in my power rankings. I knew it. I even said I wanted to drop them lower than 15th in the power rankings, but as it stands, the Buchnevich move was a steal, and the loss of Dunn shouldn't devastate them defensively. If Tarasenko sticks around and plays, even better, but I'm not betting on that happening. He did, and it was great. This team was deep and dangerous. You hate to say the Binnington injury is what ended their season. It played a part because he went fucking crazy in the playoffs, taking over for Husso, who had beat him out for the job through the regular season. He comes in, is a monster once again until Kadri was ridden into him and takes him out for the series. That being said, the Avalanche were better. Nothing was changing that fact. And they controlled these games, I felt like. And it felt like no matter how many games it took, the Avs were going to be the last one standing. At number 5, we have Carolina, May 30th. They were eliminated. They were 8th on my power rankings. What went wrong? You could argue the Anderson injury, but they got far enough without him. You could argue the lack of winning away from home, and you'd have a great point. But the scariest thing for a Carolina Hurricanes fan is Svechnikov disappeared. 1 goal, 0 assists in 7 games against the possession-challenged Rangers. This matchup was supposed to have one team controlling the puck 80% of the time, and it didn't really play out that way. But the Canes did plenty to create scoring opportunities, and Shesterkin was great, don't get me wrong. But if your elite goal scorer isn't scoring goals, I mean, what are you supposed to do? Aho was good in the series. Teravainen was good. Jarvis was good. But they just didn't do enough offensively to me. They took too many penalties for a Rangers power play that is lethal. And it just came down to they finally had to win a Game 7 at home. Not finally. They've done that plenty. And they finally lost. So, what are you going to do? At number 4, you've got Edmonton, June 6th. They were eliminated 9th in my power rankings. What went wrong? Lack of depth. Duh. Anyone could have guessed this was the result once the Oilers and the Avs finally met. They were going against arguably the deepest team in the league. That was especially evident when no one could take care of Makar on the blue line. He had 9 points in 4 games. I mean, when you don't have the depth to challenge the guy who's on the ice for 28 minutes a game, I mean, you're not going to win. That's why defensemen who can move the puck like that and who can be weapons like that are so important, because it's no longer a matchup thing. Because the forwards simply aren't out there long enough. And when they don't have the depth for at least a couple lines to contain Makar, doesn't happen, man. Doesn't happen. And then 3rd, the Rangers, June 11th, were wiped out. I had them 11th in my power rankings. Hard to fault them for much. What went wrong? Timely goals against. I mean, Tampa was just... They won multiple games in the final minutes of the game. This series was a showcase of Tampa knowing what it takes to get it done, and New York being unable to match. And that seems like you're throwing out the X's and O's, but at the end of the day, I thought Tampa just controlled the momentum more. I thought they capitalized on their moments. They're just the better team, and there was no way to get around that. I thought it was a really good matchup, but they were the better team. And so we're left with Tampa as number 2 and Colorado as number 1 because in my way too early power rankings, this is what I said about Tampa in my second slot. Lost their whole second line, but they are elite. Elite top line, elite goaltending, strong veteran D. I'm not knocking them any farther than second. Good job by me. At number 1, which let's not compliment me on this too much because number one was Colorado for everybody. Eliminated in the second round again, but I just can't help but to think they're ready for a breakthrough. The Avs are a yearly reminder that power rankings don't mean shit. Turns out the last line was wrong. Because they do mean something when you're the number one team going into the season 3 years running. Colorado, Tampa. That's a hell of a series, and I am fucking pumped. All right, guys, it does it for me. Like, comment, subscribe. We are at an hour of recording time. I'm going to edit this way down. I've made mistakes. There might be a few things to nitpick, but hey, that's part of making these videos. I'm just doing my best out here. I don't do this full time yet. I should edit this to the front. We are 15 subscribers from 1,000. So I'm going to ask a favor. If you like the videos, try giving it a share to someone. If you don't do that. Why are you here? What are you doing? But, yeah, I should definitely edit this to the front. Go Bees!